Are the Broncos missing out on an opportunity to get Bo extra reps the first week if he rolls into it with the, Three's Company approach here?
Yeah. I don't know how long that rotation actually happens. How many days they roll into camp with a rotation like that. There used to be more time, obviously, when you had 4 preseason games and you were doing all that stuff to make a decision, and you kind of wanted to know what your starting offense was rolling into the 3rd preseason game, where you're going to play the majority of your time and do all that stuff. That's been accelerated. That process has been accelerated. So I would imagine, Matt, you've got 2 weeks of practice before your first preseason game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine after 1 week, maybe even after 4 or 5 days of kind of heavy rotation, you start to hone that down to where 2 guys are getting the majority of the reps. And then after that first game, I think you got to, going into the second game of the season or the second game of the preseason, you got to pretty much kind of know who your guy is. That's kind of where I think. So give them 4 or 5 days of rotation, start eliminating that rotation, kind of buckling down there, and then eventually you just give it to Bo Nix and move on.
Well, and that's where I was headed with this, because we talk about this being an open quarterback competition, but if Sean decides to go with Stidham, doesn't that limit most of the reps Bo is going to get this year? Because once the season rolls around, if Stidham is your quarterback, QB1 gets the reps.
Right. Yeah.
Wouldn't that stunt Bo's development? So maybe is this quarterback competition just overblown because it just doesn't make sense to operate that way?
Well, I've said that from day one is Bo Nix is going to be your starting quarterback week 1 in Seattle. And, you get some pushback a little bit, but like, what is Stidham's ceiling compared to Bo Nix's ceiling?
Yeah, they're very different.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
I think they are, at least.
Yeah, I believe they are. And then ultimately, you're in a rebuilding process. You just mentioned in the 2 deep, 22 new positional players
out of 44. Yeah,
out of 44 in the 2 deep. You can say it without saying it. We tore this apart, and we're moving in a different direction.
Sure.
And what sense if you're gonna struggle to win 7 or 8 games anyhow, which whether you got Stidham or whether you got Bo Nix, why would we not put our first round investment? And when you talk to Sean about Bo, I mean, he lights up. He lights up about the intelligence. He lights up about the accuracy. He lights up about his pocket presence. Yeah. He lights up about his ability to throw from a dirty pocket. Oof. He lights up about his ability to avoid sacks. He lights up about all that stuff. So this is your guy. And if I'm Sean and I said this is my guy, I'm not interested in waiting around. Like, I've already made that decision.
I guess the curveball to that would be if Stidham just looks better in camp. If Stidham looks like he's got a better grasp on things, which is what it looked like in minicamp, is that he's just a smoother operator. The question would become, does Bo close the gap enough in camp to make it negligible to the point where the tie goes to the first rounder? Now, I'll just say this. I don't think there was a big gap in the first place. I do think Stidham was the smoother operator. And when Zach asked Sean in minicamp about it, Sean talked about the locker room, right? Like, you've got to be cognizant of the locker room. Does it matter if the locker room thinks that Stidham gives them a better chance to win and they go with Nix anyway?
I don't like if it is. It depends. If Bo Nix is Paxton Lynch, then yeah, that would be a problem. But I can't imagine.
No, he's not.
Him being Paxton Lynch. So then, like you said, it's negligible, from a talent standpoint. It's, there's very little that will separate them. The reason that you said minicamp, Stidham was a smoother operator, is because he's been here. He knows the language. He's like,
we expected that.
Right. That's one of your expectations. So when we get into a formation, or we motion or fly to a formation, and then we, explode out of that formation at the snap, it's understanding. It's understanding what the routes are, what each, like being able to tag each individual route, knowing exactly where that guy is supposed to be, and then being able to dissect the defense and not even think, just know, hey man, I can throw it over here because the corner bailed, right, and the overhang backer didn't get to the flat, so that flat's going to be wide open. Like you got to that stuff. It's almost a picture in your mind. And when you talk to Sean about Bo Nix, like. That's the thing. He's like an A+ in the learning department.
Oh yeah.
The guy's a brilliant football mind, and so I think that's as intriguing as anything. It was, and one of the reasons that Bo Nix is here, and they didn't move up to chase, JJ, or they didn't move up to chase Jaden Daniels.
Tons of submissions here on the RamosLaw.com text line about your camp storylines. Keep those coming in. Next segment, we're reading the best ones on air. But I want to get to one quick text here first. Guys, why is there such a rush to get Bo immediate reps? He's got a whole career in front of him, even if he doesn't start much this year, and just learns. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that, Mark? Taking a quarterback at 12 overall and sitting him behind Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand if you took him at 12 overall and you had Alex Smith and you were winning 11 or 12 games and you had a really good team, but you don't. You've won 5 games and 6 games and 7 games. Like, you haven't. And so, talk to Peyton Manning. J.C. Penney coined this phrase. J.C. Penney from the department store.
I'm aware.
He's a real person.
Not F.A.O. Schwartz?
No.
Okay.
J.C. Penney.
What about Filene?
This is one of my favorite quotes. The best teacher is the job itself.
I like that.
Yeah, you got to learn.
Yeah.
And because you don't have anybody that is going to lead you to whether it's honestly from week 1, I would ask you, but this is my belief, whether it's Jarrett Stidham or whether it's Bo Nix or whether it's Zach Wilson, this year you're winning. You're going to be hard pressed to win more than seven games or so anyhow.
100%.
So why would I not want the potential future of my franchise if we're only winning 6-7 games anyhow? Why would I not want him to learn and have all those learning experiences? So as we continue to build this thing, we got a chance to be really good.
And yeah, 2 texter here. They're only going to put him in that situation if they deem that he's ready to go. So to his point, the texter's asking, why rush him? Well, it's because he's had the most college starts
61 starts
of any quarterback, in collegiate history. That's an NCAA record. If he's not ready to start at 24 with 61 college starts under his belt, you didn't scout right.
Yeah.
Something went wrong with your evaluation.